we're going to start by introducing our panelists. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists, well, first of all, let's look here. Do I have you in the right order? Last time I reversed Google with Foursquare and it was a little funny, but awesome. So DeQuaina, do you want to introduce yourself first? I'm going to ask each person to just introduce themselves and their company, and we'll just kick it off that way. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is DeQuaina Washington. I am the Talent Acquisition Manager for JW Player. And we are a video streaming technology company, so a lot of the back-end technology for companies who want to leverage video streaming on their websites, we do it.
So one of the things that I've been asking for a definition for at the start of each of our panels, for each one of the meetups that we've done, is to define what a junior developer is. How many candidates in the room or developers in the room would consider themselves a junior developer? Raise your hand, nice and proud. It's all good. I haven't written a line of code in 20-something years, so I will raise my hand. Excellent. So I'm going to ask our panelists for their definition of a junior developer. And the reason why is one of the disconnects that we see is a job post that says junior developer, and when you read it, they want a master's degree and 15 years of experience. Has anyone seen that issue? Raise your hand. Okay. So I think as an industry, that's probably something we can work on. So I think it's great to start with some definitions. So Ryan, if you'd like to start, give us your definition of what a junior developer might be, and the number of years of experience might be a good way to start it. We're going to go right down the panel.
I think for us, we do try to be pretty literal when we post a junior level role. For example, we have a junior data engineer role I just posted, and that literally is someone who is, kind of fresh out of college, has some projects under their belt, and maybe also like a year of experience that's, applicable to the role. So if we label it junior, we definitely mean that. And I think to everyone else's point, it definitely will depend on domain knowledge as well. If you come into, the video streaming space and you've never worked with any of the technologies, never worked with any open source technologies, those sorts of things, yeah, it might seem junior, but definitely 1 to 2 years. And if we say it's junior, we're gonna not also require you to have 15 years of experience at the same time.
One of the things that has been coming up more and more at our panels, and it was really interesting a few months back to hear Google's perspective on this, is Bootcamps. So how many of our attendees are currently enrolled or have graduated a Dev Bootcamp? Raise your hand. So what is that? Mark, what do you think? 15, 20% of the room, something like that? Great. So I'd love to get everyone's feedback on kind of what's happening with boot camps today, and do you consider those candidates? Yes or no, and maybe why? So, DeQuaina, please.
We definitely do consider those candidates, and since we were talking a little bit about how to craft your resume to really get to the point and get to the hiring managers, I think there may be some sort of template that Bootcamps are using for resumes, or some kind of guide that you guys are using.
So don't use that?
Don't use that.
Don't use, okay, that's a good one. Do not use it.
Had a hiring manager come to me and say, I saw these resumes that looked exactly alike, and these people all came out of boot camp. And it wasn't a negative, she wasn't trying to be negative, but it smacks of originality, and I think you really should just craft your resume to be specific to you. And, even if you're gonna bite the style of the boot camp resume, really just try not to make it so it looks like it came straight out of a boot camp. And I think it's really awesome to go to the boot camps, and we don't, immediately disqualify anyone for that. But again, it goes back to having the domain knowledge and being able to, as I said, if something breaks, be able to handle it. Boot camp doesn't make a difference there, but don't use those resumes.
So I'd love to learn a little bit more about your process. If you could talk a little bit about the number of interviews. Is there an on-site technical interview? Again, when we're thinking about hiring, let's be specific for like junior to intermediate developers. I think would be great for the room. So talk to us about your process. Is there a coding challenge? Where in the process does the coding challenge occur? I think it'd be very helpful to learn how each of your companies manage that.
So initially it goes through just an application review. Everyone reads everyone's resumes that come in. Our hiring managers review them in detail. I take about 10 minutes before I do the initial HR phone screen to look it over and have good knowledge of what you're doing, what you've done, your tenure, all that good stuff. So we review there. And then if it goes well, and again, to your point, communication is key. We have a highly collaborative environment, so that's going to be very important that you can communicate and work with other people. We don't code in the corner. We don't throw code over the wall. You're definitely going to be in a collaborative environment, so that's very important. I like to keep it light. I want to be able to converse with you because that's the type of environment it is. I may ask like a sneak technical question, but I don't get too deep because then I'll be like, oh, wait, now I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I totally try to have a good grasp of the role so I can connect with you on that level and at least know the basics. And then after that HR phone screen, I do send a coding test. So here's the problem. We go back and forth. So we have a couple of roles where we did a live coding exercise. We switched to that once we had a lot of people that were coming in that couldn't code. So essentially that was it. A lot of my team came to me because, we've talked about getting rid of the coding tests, how useful they are if they're fair. And then when we've tried to play around with it, we have people that came into the in-person interviews and could not code. So, we maybe down the line we'll find, a really cool new way to do it. But right now, the coding tests, I think they're pretty basic. They do vet your problem solving. Most everyone solves them and does really well on them for the most part that I see. And we do have open-ended questions as well that are incorporated into a lot of them so we can see. So we don't just see your score and throw it away. Someone looks at it, reviews it, and looks at your thought process. After that, you would talk to the hiring manager. It's about a 45-minute interview where you're going to get more technical and more in depth than you did, of course, during my conversation.
Is that typically phone or in person?
That's phone.
Still phone at this point?
Yeah, that's a phone interview. And then after that phone interview, you come in, and then that's the onslaught, like the 2.5 to 5 hour interview. The data roles are a little longer. Other ones are a little shorter. Some of like our front end developer role had 2 in-persons, 2 or 3 in-persons. Just because it's a very small team, you're going to be working with these people every day, and we wanted to make sure that your communication styles meshed and that sort of thing. So we'll do it in person, definitely take a nap, eat, drink, do everything before you come in. We give you breaks. I order you lunch. You get lunch, at a halfway point. And then if it all goes well from there, we close it out with a conversation with our CEO, just to kind of close that loop. And that's the final stage. And then you'll see me and I'll say, hey, an offer. And, if it goes well at that stage. So that's how it goes.
I'd love to hear a success story. So if you could talk about maybe a recent process that landed into a successful hire. And if you could talk a little bit about where that person was either sourced from or where that initial introduction came from, and what made it a great experience not only for the candidate but also for your team too.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I could go back to working with a junior level engineer that we took a chance on. And this was actually before we implemented a lot of our some of the processes we have in place today, because we've grown so much over the last couple of years. So the process has become more robust in recent years. But at the beginning, we've had a junior candidate, one in particular, who came in. We were unsure about his experience. He didn't have a computer science degree. He was just, not that matters, but it was just not really in that vertical at all. He came in, was just a superstar as far as coding. We actually in-house sourced him, so we found him ourselves, just reaching out and being like, hey, he's doing some interesting stuff, which is what I do all day. I sit and try to see, who would be good to work for JW Player. And when I reach out, it's because I've stalked you before I reached out. So, so we did that. He was awesome. He came in. He's actually moved teams 3 times seamlessly, just because he's kind of a jack of all trades. And he was a very junior candidate that we took a chance on, and we just wanted to see what he could do. And yeah, he went through the process. He kicked ass, and he today is one of our best coders, one of our best engineers. He creates specialized coding tests for us because we like to tap into the team for advice on how to reach out to technical professionals and make sure that they feel appreciated when they're going through the process. And he's helped us a lot with that. And this was a very junior level candidate, and that's one of our biggest success stories because he's now on the DevOps team. He came in on the player team. He went to our media engineering, and now he's DevOps. And it was seamless. And the thing is, on our team, we want you to be able to reach out if you're interested in another team and another vertical, and that's what we try to encourage. And he definitely did that, and I love him. He's awesome. And so, yeah, that was our biggest success story, and we found him, so we were really happy about it.
Awesome. And how long was that process from you reached out and he was hired?
Yeah, that was about all of our, I always say this on my initial phone calls, I've not been myself personally involved in a process, even with the process that I outlined for you guys, that was more than 3 weeks, unless something weird happened. It's 2 to 3 weeks. His was 2 to 3 weeks to start to finish.
Red flags. What's a great tip or a fun story that's happened to you that you can share that people can avoid? Is there something that they shouldn't say, shouldn't do? Again, thinking about this junior to intermediate developer role, what throws up a red flag that says I need to get this person out of my office, and how did they make it in here this far past all of my screening? So we won't say what happened, it failed on the call. So let's say they got through the screening call or two, they actually made into the office, and something happened that you wondered why and how they actually made it through.
I think one literal red flag is to research your company. I get so many people that I talk to, and I have had some people come all the way to in person, and they called us like a music streaming company, or just no grasp of what the technology or what the company does. So it's just a tip there. But other than that, I had a guy who I always, whenever I'd send out interview schedules for the in-persons, I would put interviewers subject to change, not your time, nothing like that. So I had one interviewer. I do 2 per segment, just tag team, 2 people vetting. One guy wasn't able to attend the segment. I used to send out interview schedules that were detailed, that showed every person that the candidate would be meeting with. Something happened. One of those interviewers couldn't meet with the candidate. The candidate flipped out. Had a tantrum in one of the conference rooms, was throwing stuff because he was supposed to meet. He was like, "You said we were going to meet with Joe Blow," and I was like, "And now I no longer send detailed interview schedules out." So you live and you learn, but that's probably the most memorable one. So things change, everyone.